if someone is feeling lost, hopeless, depressed, like there is no way out, what could someone begin to do? And what does the left hemisphere tell us about these kinds of states?
Well, the first thing I think is that if that is how you feel, it's important to share that with another living human being. Don't make a secret of it. And preferably also get some professional input, because it's something very hard to deal with on your own. And professionals certainly should be such as to have had experience of helping people with these feelings. And I find that in practice, a lot of them have had them also themselves. Indeed, I know what it is to be profoundly depressed. Um, but I also know what a wonder it is that these things do pass. And one of the things that helps me now is that if I'm tempted to fall further into a depression, I'm able to say to myself, you've been here before, and you know that there is hope, and you know that life goes on. And in a curious way, I hope people won't misunderstand me or think I'm being in any sense glib about this. I couldn't be further from being glib about mental distress. As I say, I know it from the inside as well as from the outside. But it can add to a life. And at the time, it certainly doesn't feel like it. It seems like a horrendous imposition and a kind of torture. But just having survived it, just having come through it, adds something to one's ability to understand the nature of life and to have empathy for other people who suffer. And I think that's actually a very important thing. I think somebody who hasn't suffered, and I'm not sure there are many people who've never suffered, but if they haven't really suffered, uh, they're likely to be a little bit lacking in whatever it takes to bond with people who are suffering. So I don't see it as a wholly negative thing, but I do think it's very serious. And I think the first step is to share and not to hide this and nurse it and not to say it. That is probably the very worst thing you can do. And people worry that other people will be badly affected, or this is a reason for starting probably with a professional. Um, but what do the hemispheres tell us about this? Well, I mean, it's a big story, really, but I think the left hemisphere isn't really very much in touch with the sort of state of mind of somebody who is depressed. I think in most kinds of depression, there is a sort of imbalance towards the right hemisphere, if you like. Maybe the left frontal cortex or maybe the right posterior cortex, both of which are in a kind of balancing relationship with the right frontal lobe, is in some way underactive. And that causes a preponderance of the part of us that feels for people. The right frontal cortex is what makes us the social animal that we are. It's what enables us to bond, to feel for other people, to see what it is they're going through. Now, that is a very good thing, but it does need to be sufficiently balanced with the ability to move away from that. And depression can become a self-centered kind of condition as well, in which really you haven't got room for empathy and you haven't really got room for sadness. You get cut off completely. And I think in that situation, what happens is that the left hemisphere has somehow taken over. We know that when people become psychotically depressed, this seems to be more due to malfunction in the right hemisphere than excess input from the right hemisphere. It seems that it is more a left hemisphere thing. Whenever people become estranged from reality, deluded, or hallucinating, then it is more likely that this comes from the left hemisphere being too much in play. I mean, that's really all I can say very briefly. But I think when you're depressed, you don't really need to or want to know about hemispheres. What you want is somebody who can kindly lead you to a place where you can see for yourself that there is something worth living for. And golly, that is, I mean, that is something that, yes, I hope I've been able to do for people. I believe I have.